you want to explain the ruling today? Use some of your newly found legal
I thought it was
skills?
quite interesting. The judge ruled that the sheriff's department's reliable informant that they've used in admittedly over 25 cases in less than the last year is not a credible witness, is not a credible person. And she ruled that the sheriff's department acted in reckless disregard for the truth in bringing forth the charges against Steve and going for the search warrant.
We may have accomplished one thing today, that there's no telling how many cases could be in court right now that might be influenced by this year, because Dre's now deemed unreliable, and he won't be able to they won't be able to use him no more. And that in itself is so much that I'm grateful for. You know, I wish that the officers, Trent for sure, and Matt, they should be fired. But I don't know if they will be, but they done wrong, and they done Grady wrong. Grady might not be a good person, but they used him, you know, and he let them. So.
And we're lucky. I mean, this is a good positive outcome for a caregiver who is growing, for patients who are sick and suffering and need this according to their doctor. It's a necessity according to their doctor. And this case will help explain to our state legislators why legislation is needed in our state to protect patients and their caregivers from just this type of arrest and waste of valuable resources. These counties can't afford this anymore.
I want something done to the sheriff department.
I know, and that's what I have a certain amount of elation over winning, more relief than anything else, but I'm terribly saddened by what winning means.
Yeah. It means they're corrupt.
They're corrupt.
That's what it means.
And that makes me feel bad.
Yeah. This is my county.
Yeah,
It makes me feel bad too. I trusted that sheriff. And I trusted him to keep an eye on what his deputies was doing to people in this county too.
I want to teach my kids that if you've got a problem, go find a cop.
Yeah.
For medicinal purposes. Steve Marlowe was arrested last November on drug charges. Today he went to court arguing that deputies convinced an informant to lie in order to bring charges against him. Late today, the district attorney dismissed the case after hearing the evidence.
All we ask is the truth. You know, we just want it honest. You know, I grow marijuana, and I do it for the right reasons.
Marlowe's ex-wife, Jean, testified on his behalf today. She's an advocate for medical marijuana and will testify before a State House committee looking into legalizing medical marijuana on Wednesday.
So about 5 o'clock this afternoon, the phone rang, and Ben Scales, the lawyer, was on the phone, and he said, all charges have been dismissed. Made me a happy man. I'm proud to have been part of this, and this is a victory for the community and for everybody. You know, Jean, we couldn't have done this without Jean. We couldn't have done it without all the help we had, and we're now just looking to what's next. Gotta get the grow equipment back.
And we were very pleased that the charges were dismissed. I was even more pleased when the judge's ruling first came down and she ruled that the sheriff's department had acted with willful intent or with reckless disregard for the truth and the law. And that in itself is a chastisement of the way that the sheriff's department has been behaving in our county. And I am going to ask that our Board of Commissioners request the resignation of the 2 officers that were proven to be liars in this and have made up evidence against people who tried to get people locked up, wrote on the report they wanted them prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, If the Board of Commissioners don't want to ask for their resignation, then I'll go around the county and we'll get signatures from all the people in this county who want it done. But they will be fired from their jobs if I have anything to do with it. I don't think any law enforcement officer who manufactures evidence and makes up things to have someone arrested for a non-violent, victimless crime involving sick and suffering people trying to help themselves has no position working in law enforcement.
I think that this is just a small part of what is wrong with the sheriff's department. I think these officers has done this time and time again and have done much worse according to the stories I hear. And I think that if we want to improve our community, these officers have to be done away with. You know, they're not representing what's right. They're representing just a reckless, they're doing what they want to and using a badge to do it.
And the newspaper reported the testimony of these officers saying this one officer, Lieutenant Trent Carswell, testified under oath that he had used Grady Sheehan as a reliable, confidential informant over 25 times in the last 8 or 9 months. And that averages out to 3 times a month. And the judge says this boy's not reliable in any way.
He's a
I
drug
wonder
dealer.
how that's going to affect all these cases that he's lied about other people on. Why are the taxpayers of Polk County allowing their sheriff's department to waste valuable resources? It's not like this county's not in debt.
This is as bad as it gets as far as corruption of the law. You see it all across the country. I've never had anything against Grady, but Grady has always been a dealer, and they know it. And they let him get by with it, maybe even furnished him, I've been told.
Well, he testified in court that he had bought drugs for him, guns for him, and weed for him.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And I think he sold it for him, too.
Yeah. You know, this type of corruption has got to come to an end. You know, when I was growing up, you could respect a cop. You could go to him if there was a problem, or if you were in fear, or if there was something you were worried about, or if somebody done you wrong as a child, or mistreated you in some way.
We stand up for the children and the young people who's coming up and going to have these same problems if we don't straighten them out. You know, I mean, the youth don't need to have the problems that we have created. You know, the war on drugs are against each other. And in America, we shouldn't be coming down on each other. We need to take and do away with the war on drugs and become one nation again. And if people are drug abusers, they should, you know, get help. You know,
Through the health system, not the criminal system.
that's right. We should help them as people and keep families together. And it'd be just as cheap as having all these prisons and all these guards and all the law enforcements and drug task force and the DEA. You know, this is just a waste of money that could go to help people.
One thing that I have always said is when you speak the truth of this plant, when you tell what it can do, the suffering that it can ease, the pain that it can abate, when you speak this truth, Spirit works in everything. We didn't have anything to do with what happened. Spirit made it work because we was telling the Creator's truth. We merely give voice to this plant and to its many properties. You know, this is a truth that comes from the Creators, not from man. That's why I think it always works out right.